For some of us, video games have been the source of light, joy, and even comfort, especially during trying times. Amen. But have you ever wondered what goes behind the scenes in developing these games? Luckily for you, today's video is all about how games were made, and by the end of this video, we're sure you'll grow to appreciate video games even more, given the number of extensive work teams put behind it. How are video games made? Like everything else, the creation of video games goes through the video game development process called the pipeline, which is how the games are conceived from scratch. The pipeline involves a lot of processes and a whole load of teams who work on a single game for years at a time. There are 3 stages of game development, namely pre-production, production, and post-production. There are various individuals involved in the making of the video game, such as directors, visual artists, storyboard artists, concept designers, and voice actors from different departments. Similar to motion picture films and series, video games take a lot of time to work on since it involves working on each layer of the game. For example, the concept artists need to get their works finalized and approved before they can proceed with making characters, which are tasked to another team. Likewise, storyboard artists can't proceed with their work unless the script has been finalized and approved, which is highly dependent on the director. Motion pictures have revolutionized characters. Compared to the early 80s to the late 90s, video games are prominent for being heavily pixelated imagery and enhanced through 3D animations. These images are captivating in their own ways, but now video games are turning more lifelike as we move forward. Back then, characters had a basic range of motions available, but now through the aid of computers and several applications, developers can capture the movements of the actors, which gives a more diverse range of emotions that are adapted in the game to make them more akin to humans. Speaking of motion, several games hire professional stuntmen to do jobs since it comes with a lot of risks as they execute the action better. Assassin's Creed is another popular action-adventure stealth game that is so popular that it warranted a live-action film that aired back in 2016 starring Michael Fassbender. One of the memorable scenes in the movie showcased the actor atop a high tower that performed a leap of faith. Behind-the-scenes footage of the movie revealed that they hired Damien Walters to perform the stunt since the director wants the free fall to be as real as possible, according to producer Frank Marshall. For the stunt, Walters dived a staggering 125 feet on the ground, much to the horror and amazement of everyone. Another prominent stunt actor who was tapped to help out in another game, God of War, was Eric Jacobus. He was also a prominent name in the field who was approached by the studio in charge of the motion capture for the game since they were so impressed with his works. The interactive horror drama game Until Dawn is also applauded for the unique use of motion capture. While filming, actors also wore a little camera that captured their facial reactions as well, which was also added by the renderers. Prior to filming, actors have applied a special kind of makeup that allows the computer to pick up how their faces move. By adding the reactions, it adds immersion and believability to the actors' performances. Ghost of Tsushima also bore impressive facial features by using performance capture. Daisuke Tsuji of Ghost of Tsushima also shared what he thought of his experience. It really is about focusing on the other actor and listening that helped me get through and try not to think about all this stuff that is in the way of doing the scene, Tsuji explained. These performances are what set modern games apart from previous generations, and this is where actors can truly provide an exceptional experience for players. Naughty Dog's award-winning The Last of Us is another video game praised not only for its graphics but also for its narrative and design. The Last of Us Part 2 was just released back in 2020, which was received with critical acclaim and won EE Game of the Year, an award voted for by the public in record numbers. Shooting motion capture isn't an easy feat to accomplish since there's a lot of things to put into consideration, such as choreography, audio, dialogue, and even the props to use. For each of these, there's an accompanying team that makes it possible. Filming motion capture is a bit silly to look at though, since it requires the actors to wear spandex-style suits with tiny balls attached all over their bodies to record all physical movements when filming. Ghost of Tsushima actor Patrick Gallagher shared his thoughts on filming the acclaimed video game in an interview from a while back. "You don't get as much back and forth as you do in regular acting," Gallagher recalls. "Be interesting, make the right choices, figure out the characters. A lot of the technical stuff is different, which is therefore going to make the whole experience different. You need to imagine that you're looking at a huge castle." Sound effects and voice acting. And speaking of audio, let's not forget the sound effects artists and voice artists involved in the game that bring to life the characters and the background. Although the advent of computers helped us humans perform more tasks efficiently, sometimes we need good old-fashioned manual labor incorporated in our projects, and luckily, we have Foley artists to rely on when it comes to sound effects. Foley artists are tasked with creating audio through the use of everyday objects to make the noises you hear for everything in games and movies. Foley artists were named after Jack Foley, who was a pioneer of the craft during the era of silent films. If you think creating sounds for video games is easier compared to movies, you gotta think again. Making sounds takes a lot more than just sitting inside the studio, since the artists need to imitate the sound in real time, and it's even harder when they need to recreate sounds from mythical creatures and the likes, which makes them all the more impressive. They pour a lot of time into researching audio source materials by recording things in real life to imitate the right sounds for the game world. They also need to figure out the type of materials they need to produce a certain sound, and it's even more challenging during combat. One example of this is in Call of Duty or Battlefield, where in multi-track recordings of guns being fired uses a multitude of microphones to record the sound of the guns being shot from all angles and perspectives. Let's not forget how actors give life to characters of the game, and much like Foley artists, they need to time everything and portray emotions through their voices. Depending on the type of game the characters the users are playing may encounter different entities, which result in a variety of interactions that need a different vibe each time. Samantha Strelitz, who worked as one of the voice actors in Red Dead Redemption 2, also emphasizes the importance of conveying feelings for the player's characters. Video games are the audience's medium. Strelitz shared, "You as the audience member are deciding where you go, what you do, and how you play. That means you can record 3 or 4 different variations of the same scene to give a variety of options to the player depending on the circumstances. With this in mind, recordings for voice acting may take several sessions to accomplish." You bet your boots they do. Modern Warfare, revolutionizing graphics through photogrammetry. As an example, we'll be looking at how Call of Duty Modern Warfare was made. As one of the best-known first-person shooter games made, Call of Duty, or COD, has been instrumental in bringing about new advances in the genre, which was first released back in 2003. As we all seen, the video game is heavy on graphics and is loosely based on actual settings. In an article published by the Washington Post back in October 2019, we got to see the behind scenes where the magic happens. We commend Modern Warfare for its realistic portrayal of armed conflict depicted in video games, which were only possible thanks to the extensive and collaborative work done by Infinity Ward Studios. The studios tapped 2 consultants for the development of the game, Mitch Hall and Steve Sanders, who are retired servicemen of the US Navy SEALs. To make it as accurate as possible, they consulted with them not only for how the soldiers will fare in the game, but also to help in developing the overall storyline. Infinity Ward also took it to the next level by introducing another process in development, photogrammetry. The studio captures high-resolution photos of an object from every angle, stitching them together to generate a 3-dimensional digital replica, which they can then alter and manipulate using their software, which results in a photorealistic image that's more lifelike than any other computer-made object. And speaking of computers, creating objects from scratch through computer usage takes a lot of time, resources, and effort, which makes photogrammetry even more efficient. With photogrammetry, what used to take 6 weeks to create can now be scanned and refined in 1, according to Infinity Ward Studio art director Joel Emsley. If you were to just build a character from scratch in software, it could take 6 weeks to do all that work, and a lot of that time is to work on little nuances, the subtleties, the paint chips, and things. That's what really takes time, Emsley says. Truthfully speaking, there's a lot more that happens behind the scenes of how video games are made, but it'd take hours and hours to explain it to you all. Nonetheless, thanks for watching. We hope you learned a lot in today's video about the game development process. Don't forget to leave a like, and thanks for watching today's video. We'll see you in the next episode.